speaks about of the mitzvah by the Yam Suf, and he's going to speak about the positive aspect of the sea covering the Goyim, as it is especially expressed in Moshiach's times, and he's going to even contrast it with what we say every morning in Yashir about Tuba B'Yam Suf. There's an even greater thing than just they were sunk in the sea, they drowned in the sea. So the Rebbe explains, Kita Yom Pirushoi, what is the meaning of that they were covered by the sea? The actual thing itself is b'shleimus, is complete. It is covered over by the seawater, meaning the object is there. It just has a covering over it. Then the Rebbe in the brackets goes into a lengthy difference between that and other punishments. Then he goes on, and this itself, yesh chiluk, bein halosh and tuba b'yamsa, between the expression that they sunk into the sea. B'shiras hayam shekorim b'toyra, this was Shabbos Parts Beshalach, in the shir of the yam, l'loshen v'seveim kis hayam b'shir tilum the tesva b'chodesh, where it says that their enemies were covered by the sea in the shir tilum of the 15th of the month when the Shabrengen took place. Haloshen tubu b'yamsuf, the expression they drowned in the sea, madgish shinui matzove shel hadavar hanitpa. It indicates and emphasizes the change of the state of the thing that drowned. Koloima. We are relating to the particular item, and we say about that item that drowned in the sea, this matter was changed by the fact it's drowned in the ocean. So now this item is now changed. As opposed to when we say their enemies were covered by the sea. We are not relating to the change that's happening in the enemies. We are not talking about any change in the enemies. The existence of the matter remains the way it is. And the change expresses itself in the fact that the sea waters cover over the existence of the matter. The sea covered it over. This idea is connected with the general idea and the state and situation of the future time when Moshiach comes. The existence of the entire world, even their enemies. They'll be in a state and situation where the sea will cover them, like the waters covers the sea. Similar to creatures of the sea, which are called the fish. Their entire being is covered by seawater. What does this mean in the spiritual idea? The revelation of godliness in the entire world, as we will learn in Ois Yud Gimel. And that's what we're going to go right now. We're going to skip all the parenthetical things that the Rebbe says. We're going to go to Ois Yud Gimel in the Sicha. We will now return to our topic that the Rebbe went off topic, like I said, in between. And he said, since by Matan Torah was affected, that idea of studying Torah and the understanding of Torah is something that belongs to all. It's not just to a few people, Shevet Levi or whoever studied Torah before Matan Torah, the Avis and so on, but it became everyone. Moving, it's understood. So too, it's concerning all parts of the Torah. Even the most deepest concept of the inner part of the Torah needs to be explained in the most simple type of language. That's understood even to simple people. So too concerning our topic as well. In the Kisayom, explanation of this topic of that the sea covered over has to be in such a way that's understood to every single one in every single Jewish person. So he goes on and says, Gam Yehudi Pashuv Chutim, even a simple person. Afilu Aini Yehudi, even someone that's not Jewish. Yedea, he knows knows that there are creatures that are found in the sea, dogim v'kyoytzim, fish, etc. El Shemei Yom Mechasim Aleim, but the sea waters cover over. To such a degree that when you look at the sea, what do you look when you're looking at the sea? You see only sea water. When we ask the person, how come the Rebbe should create the fish in such a way that they should not be visible? The only thing is visible is the seawater. Is there an intent by Hashem, heaven forbid, to trick and to fool people that there is only the existence of seawater, but like and really, and he should think that there doesn't exist any other existence of fish and all the other creatures of the sea. So what does the person respond when the person is asked that? He answers simply, the fact that we only see the seawater, we don't see the fish themselves. The meaning of this is we see the source of life of the fish. The life of the fish is specifically in the water. When the fish leaves the sea, they immediately will die. This means when we look to the sea, and we don't see the fish, we only see the seawater. So it doesn't mean that we do not see the existence of the fish, but just the opposite. We're seeing the true existence of the fish. What is the true existence of the fish? The source of their life, the seawater. Like we said before, this is also understood in the mind of a simple person, even if he's not Jewish. To such a degree, if you want to explain to someone that the life force of a Yid is Torah, we bring the metaphor of fish in the sea, like the famous metaphor that Rabbi Akiva said, why are people likened to fish? To tell you, just like the fish in the sea, as soon as they go up to dry land, they immediately die. So to people, as soon as they leave behind the words of Torah. What is a metaphor? What is an analogy? An analogy means that through it we understand also what we're trying to explain. Because since the metaphor that's being used is so obvious, for sure you do not need the explanation of Chassidus to be able to understand the metaphor itself. Since the metaphor is so obvious, that's why you're bringing the metaphor to explain something that may not be as obvious. When you ask a simple person, what's the source of life of all creations in the world? He simply answers, the true existence, all existences from the heavens and the earth, and what's between the heavens and the earth, that only exist from the true existence of Hashem. When we ask him, does this also refer to the existence of the nations of the world? Do they also, what's their true existence? Also, the source of the life of the nations of the world are also from the true existence of the Eibush. He responds in wonder. What type of room is there for such a question? This is a question of a fool. How much more so? If a Jew cannot create himself, it's like an expression for a guy, but for sure he cannot create himself. Now getting back to the idea of a Beim Kisayam that we said the Moshiach times, the waters will cover the enemies, like the waters cover the sea. By in the times of the Shira, when you tell a simple person, then the future times, the existence of the world entirely will be in a way that the sea covers over, like the waters cover the sea. He understands simply the meaning of these words. That the existence of all creations in the world will be similar to the existence of fish in the sea. It's recognizable by them in a revealed way, the source of their life, the waters of the sea. Means to say, the revelation of godliness will be in the entire world. When we look at the existence of creations, we will only see the source of their life. The true existence of all creations, which is godliness. Moving on, it's understood. This is also understood. That's also relating to the existence of the nations of the world. In the movement of Pashtus, this is something that's simply understood. Even after the future redemption, it will remain the existence of the nations of the world. The Pshita, it's obvious, HaKadosh Baruch Hu lo yarig 3 billion bnei Adam. Hashem for sure will not kill 5 billion people. In those days, I guess there was 3 billion goyim in 1983. Now it's much more, 5 to 6 billion. And such a type of way that the Eibush should chas v'shalom do away with 3 billion people is against Torah. It's against righteousness, morality, etc. Just the opposite. On the Torah it says that its ways are ways of pleasantness and all its paths are peace. True, there will not be the idea of the nations and the kingdoms will enslave the Jewish people. Since it's speaking about a time of redemption, but still in all, surely there will also be the existence of the nations of the world. But the difference then will be their entire existence will be in such a way that the sea covers over. It'll be recognizable by the goyim in a revealed way. The source of their life. Similar to the fish in the sea. What will be recognizable? That the true existence of Hashem is their source. And automatically they won't enslave us, but they'll be just the opposite, that their kings will be our trainers and so on. Move on Geulah that from here is understood the great advantage of the fact that it says their enemies were covered by the sea. It's not necessary to battle and to nullify the existence of the enemies. Like we said before, when we said that their enemies were covered by the sea, it doesn't mean that anything changed in the enemies, but Rather, al-adra, but just the opposite. As they ve'em kisayam, their enemies were covered by the sea. Kaloi, Maris means to say, mitziyusam shaloivim nisheresam. The existence of the enemies remains. This existence completely becomes transformed. This to such a degree. It says when the mats of the kisaya found in a state and situation of the sea covering over, meaning, like we said before, the iyas makar achayis, that it's visible to them the source of their life. Amitas imotzai, the true existence of the Eibishter, is seen begoli in a revealed way. Automatically, this existence of the nations become an assistance to the Jewish people and a help to the Jewish people, like the pasuk says, that their kings will be your trainers, and their important women will be your nursemaids.
Doesn't mean that they don't change when you start trying to.
They will see the truth. They won't have to change. They will just have to be shown the truth. So now, what we're talking about, breaking them down, destroying them, making them a different thing from what they are. So now the Rebbe then applies this also concerning our own personal goy. Just like there's the idea of the enemies were covered by the sea, to the world in general. When there'll be the revelation in the entire world, that the entire world will be fixed up to recognize the kingdom of Hashem. So too, there's the idea of their enemies being covered by the sea in the specific avoid of every single yid. The service and the work of a yid has to be not just with his godly soul, without relating whatsoever to the animal soul. Rather, in such a way that he's involved with and affects also the animal soul and the Yetzer Hara. Like by this means, avoid is in such a way that he takes along with him also the animal soul. In his work and his effect with the animal soul, the avoid has to be not just in such a way that he sublimates and subjugates the animal soul, to such a degree and state that my heart is empty within me because he has no Yetzer Hara, because he killed him with fasting, which means completely removing the Yetzer Hara. That is not enough. The avoid has to be in a way of transformation. The very existence of the Yetzer Hara itself becomes transformed to good. Then the avoid is in such a manner that it's with all your heart. Why does it say with all your heart, with two phases? So the Chazal say from the two phases we derive that it has to be with Shnei Yitzarecha, it has to be with both your Yetzer Tov and your Yetzer Hara. Like it says, same thing by Avram Avinu, it says, we say it in Vayvor of David, that you found his heart, you found complete and faithful. Why does it say it with two letters based? Both the Yetzer Tov and the Yetzer Hara. Since the Yetzer Hara was transformed to good. And from Avram Avinu, since he is our father, therefore, since he is our father, so we inherit from him. And the fact that we inherit from him is in such a type of way that we have that capability as well, that our Yetzer Hara should be transformed to good. That's the general idea, that their enemies should be transformed, that their enemies was covered by the sea. After all, in the individual avoid of every single yid. Avoid from this and avoid in a way of transformation. The itself becomes transformed to good. Similar to what's explained previously concerning the state and situation of the future times of Moshiach times. The existence of the enemies is in such a way that it's transformed and that becomes something that has a shaykhs with the age. So now we're going to skip on further to
that's like the message. That's like today's Hayom Yom, the Ozev Tazev message. No,
yeah, exactly. But this was that that was yesterday's Hayom Yom, no?
Yesterday's Hayom Yom.
I think it was yesterday's Hayom Yom.
But what about if the Rebbe is saying it as Ivim Kisayom? What about what we say, 3 times a day in Shemona Esrei V'Cholei V'Echad Neheri Yikoresu? That's like Yikoresu transforming.
So that's Yikoresu. There's actually a later Fabrengen also on the following week where the Rebbe in Parsh Mishpatim talks about some more about how when we talk about the destruction of the enemies, it doesn't necessarily have to mean physical destruction. It could mean
the Haman and his 10 sons were hung, right? That's a physical destruction. Isn't that what Kel Nakamah says?
Again, it depends. It depends what, depends when. Yikaresu, cutting off is not killing. It doesn't say Yaharoigu. It doesn't say they will be killed. Cutting off could also mean a spiritual type of cut, where they're cut in a way that they don't have a connection with what they were before, and now they are completely transformed.
So that's also like a punishment for them for hurting Yidden?
Who says that it's a matter of punishment? Their punishment they will get. But in addition to that, there's the transformation of Moshiach times that it'll be that they will become aware of Elokus as well.
Okay.
Let's skip over to ICU test. As I already moved it over on the pages over here. The lesson directed from all that was said earlier concerning actuality, since we find ourselves at the conclusion of a time of goals. We're coming even closer to the time of the redemption. So obviously, we need to do things in such a type of way, and that is to be our main avoider, to do those things that are a preparation and introduction and speed up the coming of the Geulah. So therefore, we have to do things that are similar to inyanim that will take place during the time of the Geulah. So he says, so he says, well, so therefore we have to add with more power and more strength in the general avoid of spreading the well springs outward, appropriate to the lessons, directives of the one whose yahrzeit was Yud Shvat. Skip the parentheses. By they close avoid the zoo, and through this general avoid the befrat kasher avoid the zoo nas especially when this avoida is done in a way of perfection and completion. So then then it was the 15th of the month when the moon was full. So we are speeding up the true and complete redemption with Moshiach. And then he says that's in general the idea of spreading the well springs. Now he's going to bring this back to the idea of the idea of dealing with making the world that the Goyim should recognize God. But another idea behind this is the Kivin should be as Moshiach. It came with Yegam Geulah, since in the coming of Moshiach will be also the redemption of the entire world. It means that the entire world would be in the most perfect state. That there'd be revelation of godliness in the entire world. That the waters cover uh, will cover like the waters cover the sea. To such a degree that even the enemies will be covered by the sea. Moving, it's understood. The job of the Yidden is to affect also the entire world. Like we've spoken about many times lately, at length, that Yidden have to affect on the nations of the world, that they should fulfill the 7 mitzvahs of the Bnei Noach, which falls into the general category of making this world a civilized, inhabited place. Through that, we make this world ready and prepared and worthy for fulfilling the promise that the world will be fixed up in the kingdom of Hashem. This is the response to those that are looking to complain. And they ask, why all of a sudden are we speaking about and demanding the effect on the nations of the world? They should fulfill their seven mitzvahs. Did we finish already doing what was supposed to affect the Yidden? That's why we're looking now to affect the non-Jews. That Yid who's dressed in a shtreimel and dressed in a silver kaftan, he meets up a Lubavitcher chassid, and he's asked this question. So the Rebbe a lot of times brings this up. This Lubavitcher goes all confused. He doesn't know how to answer. But he doesn't know what to answer. The Rebbe a lot of times takes Lubavitchers to task about this. That how come when a person asks you this question or that question, different things about the topic of we want Moshiach now, or the topic of Mitzrayim, or the topic of Shem Bnei Noach. There's other sichas where the Rebbe really gets into the case of the Lubavitchers that we should know by now the answers. Why are we getting all confused? So the Rebbe says, and this is the Rebbe's approach with a lot of these questions, that there are certain questions that are questions, they have an answer. Then there are certain questions that Rebbe says that the entire question is based on a misunderstanding in a major thing. So the Rebbe says, Shailan Maldivas, this question is a result of a foundational mistake in the general belief in the coming of Moshiach. This Yid that asked this question, he thinks, which seemingly that's what comes out, that what's the meaning of Mashiach coming? That Mashiach will take him out of the gulfs. And then that Yid that's asking the question, will be able to live his life pleasantly. This means to say, the Geulah that will be when Moshiach comes is for him and for Yidden like him alone. But the truth is, in addition to the redemption of Yidden in the coming of Moshiach, there'll be also the idea of the Geulah in the entire world. It'll be fixed up in the perfection of the existence of the entire world. We're fixing up the entire world that they will be cognitive of, recognizing, and under the kingdom of Hashem. And this idea, Mashiach comes, the entire world, not just Yidden, will be fixed up. This is one of the primary and core foundations in the belief in the coming of Moshiach. This is explained in many different psukim and in many different Mamari Chazal. And the Lashon of the Rambam that he writes this in the Halachas of Mashiach, and concerning the general belief in the coming of Mashiach. Ein adavar tzarech raya. You don't need to have any proof that this is a foundational belief. Shekol asfarim meleim b'davar zeh. All the Sfarim, all the Sifrei Kodesh, all the Sifrei Tanakh are filled with this. So the same thing that Rebbe says, that this concept that the Geulah is not just for Yidden, but the Geulah is for an entire world. This is something that's filled Psukim and Tanakh, filled with Mamor Chazal. The nice was of Pashtus. In addition to this, there's a simple, obvious thing. Kasher Tia, Geulah, Asida, when the future redemption will come about, Bevadai Shalai Yarig, as Kadosh Baruch Hu, as Kol Masayim Shabbatim Kulei. Surely Hashem won't kill off all the nations of the world, in the entire world. So it's irrational, it's against Torah, all its ways are ways of pleasantness, and all of its paths are peace. Only if there's no other option, no other choice. When Goyim are coming to attack Jewish cities, now we must go out into war to protect the Yidden. But if there isn't that problem, the general idea of war is the opposite of Torah. And then the Rebbe in the bracket says that even those places where it says that you should not let any nations exist, even there, the Torah made sure that first of all that they could they have an out, and also that there's a way that they could be saved, whatever. The main point is, it's not the way of Torah to destroy Goyim just so. So let's skip the brackets. Since that is the case, surely when Moshiach comes, there will be also the existence of the nations of the world. Also concerning the nations of the world, there will be a Geulah, a redemption, in comparison to their state and situation the way they were beforehand. There will be a redemption of the entire existence of the world to fix up the world with the kingdom of Shindal Yud. Therefore, if the world is going to be at such a state when Moshiach comes, we need to contribute to that. Therefore, as a preparation for the future redemption, Yidden have to affect the entire world. That the entire world should be ready and prepared for the state and situation of the entire world being fixed up in the kingdom of Hashem. How do we prepare the world for this? Through the fact that Yidden affect the nations of the world. They should act in a civilized manner. Through the fulfillment of the 7 mitzvahs of Bnei Noach. Like we said before, this whole entire question applies if a person thinks that the future redemption is a personal thing for himself. We know that the future redemption will affect perfection in the entire world. Then must be that we need to affect that the world should be worthy and prepared for it. Now, that Yid that's asking this question, he himself says in the Rosh Hashanah davening, that all made beings will know that you made them. The Koyal and the Vroim Shabbat Masiya Mapula, it's referring to creatures of this world of action, the world of Pula. Like it's brought down the Sidra of the Arizal. This means to say, not only whoever has a soul in his nostrils, not only that every formed being will know that you formed them, which is Olam HaYetzira, the world of Yetzira. Even all that's made will know that you made him. But Olam HaSiyah Tachten, in this low world, down here below, that there's nothing lower than it. How is all this affected? through you will appear in the glory of your majesty, of your might, upon all the inhabitants of the globe of the earth. Everybody. The revelation of godliness in all the creations of the entire world. Their enemies, the sea covered. Kanal Baruch, like we said before at length, to fix up the world in the kingdom of Hashem. Therefore, it's necessary to affect the nations of the world and influence the nations of the world. They should fulfill the 7 mitzvahs of Noach with the as a preparation for fixing up the world and making it the ultimate perfection. To repair the world in the kingdom of Shindal Yud. Then the Rebbe goes on, aside from the preparations for Moshiach, then the Rebbe talks about how the Rambam says that that the Seven Mitzvahs Noach is something that a Yid has to do, and he needs to affect, and this is something that's an explicit ruling in the Rambam, but we have to do it in such a type of way that all the goyim understand it in a way that is that the guy will accept it, not in a way of like forcing him and coercing him and giving him over the head. In addition to that, and the Rebbe talks about those that don't even get into a discussion; they just make fun of a yid that goes ahead and does it. So again, we know that there's nothing but to make fun of. The Rambam, who was accepted throughout the whole Klal Yisrael, was someone that emphasized this and underlined this, and therefore we can practice what it says in the beginning of Shulchan Aruch, that it has to be al yevish of pnei avaligim. One should not be embarrassed of the scoffers, and therefore the Rebbe concludes in the end of the Sicha, Oischav Dalit, the Hirotzen should be the will of Hashem, should they close avodas pnei Yisrael through the general avodah of Klal Yisrael, close avodah begimel kam shalem olam amid. In general, the work in the 3 lines that upon this the entire world stands. Torah avodah b'nos hasadim, oisik b'torah b'gmach muspal matzibor, which is included in what Chazal say, someone that learns Torah and does Mil Chasadim and davens with the minyan Niska B'Karav Mam Shakim Ayid L'Ptani Liu B'Nei Ben Umis will merit very soon to the fulfillment of the promise that He redeemed me and my children from amongst the nations. Not only it will be as if He redeemed me, but it will actually be a redemption in actuality. Very soon we merit to the true and complete redemption from Moshiach B'Tachsa Shlemus in the perfect and complete way. Shleimus Ha'am, the complete nation, with our youth and our elderly and our sons and our daughters, like it's also hinted in that thing that we spoke about davening with a minyan, like it's known that the word Tzibur is a shtevis of the 3 types of Yidden, Tzadikim Beinim Urushoim, Bevav HaMoitzim Mechaber, with a vav that adds and joins. Also, those that are Rishoim are also joined and becomes one existence with the entire congregation. The Dugn Saktoid is similar to the Ktoid, that one of its spices was called Chalbana, which wasn't a pleasant spice. Shleimus HaTorah, the perfection of Torah, Klos HaVodah Kim HaTorah Mitzvah, the Shleimus, the complete and the general avodah of the fulfillment of Torah mitzvahs in a perfect manner, like the moon being complete. It's also the complete land, in such a way that Hashem will broaden your boundaries. Then we'll merit to study the Torah of Moshiach. A new Torah will come out from me. Though the entire Torah was given in its entirety, including the Torah Moshiach by Matan Torah, skip the parentheses. The Torah Chadash is still in the way of a new Torah, because it'll be new revelation. And all these matters, take miyad will be immediate. Gipsagdin Rambam, like the Rambam's ruling. Miyad in the golem, immediately they'll be redeemed. Like all matters of halacha, they are literal. This is also immediately in the simple sense of mamish, speedily in our days, mamash.
Amen.
Amen.